Hey guys, Lex here, back for some more of the Great Ace Attorney. Last time, we found out what the little box was, so let's continue trial to see what's inside it. We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until evidence is brought forth. To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing. I beg your pardon, Lord Van Six. This is nothing but a smoke screen, Nibbener's specialty it would seem. What are you trying to say? My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning, that this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbroker. Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly. It would be beyond absurd to break into the place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. If your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of this trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established that he was an upstanding member of society, his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. The articles this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets, and a small box. I assure you I wouldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such things to me. You know, that does rather makes a lot of sense. It's not as if it was gold or jewels, is it? No, goodness knows Mr. McGilded was rich enough. But you can't deposit cash at a pawnbrokery, I'm quite certain of that. The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling. It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its argument. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by this fine citizen could have. Well, counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc or the box are in any tangible way related to this case? Well,
What's the matter, Bruno? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence.
yes, of course, you and I both know that. We know McGilded's true character, and we know the disc is significant, even if we don't know why. But if we explain all that to the court at this point, we'll have to acknowledge that McGilded's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defense's argument was flawed, based on false information.
Oh no.
That would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. Hey, better perjury than murder.
But cheating.
Could it be that Van Zieks knows? Is that why he's doing this now? Because he anticipated everything?
But maybe. This could be a great opportunity for us.
Sorry, what do you mean, Iris?
Well, what is it that you always say, Bruno? Sooner or later the truth comes out. Every time.
Alright, the exact significance of the things that McGilded deposited within the Stimmerany Bank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her on the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here? Believe in her. My lord, the defense would like to make a proposal. Oh, what proposal, counsel? While the court awaits the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand. The defendant? To what end? It's to do with the various articles deposited in the banks by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question once and for all. Well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing. In particular, the impact it will have on the accused standing, and indeed your own. I have. Lord Van Zakes, would you care to explain that last remark? The prosecution accepts the defense's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of defendant Miss Gina Lestrade. You witnesses currently in the stand may step down until further notice. I shall bid you good day. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. As you wish. Alright then, Gina, it's time. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here.
Good luck, Bruno.
Oh, jeez. The article that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Windibank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the Omnibus case, the trial of which he was heard in the cigar room 2 months ago. Yes, I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well. That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded. The Omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we are all again, the same players in that trial facing each other once more. Twist of fate, perhaps, my nebulous friend. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged. That the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under the seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilded died in this very courtroom, in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months on, as indeed does the Omnibus murder itself. Be that as may, I recall neither the disc nor this small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings. Miss Lestrade. Would you tell the court now, please, what really happened on the omnibus 2 months ago?
I don't know what you mean. I already said all what I know.
And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade, this is extremely important.
But...
Remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully held information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, Let's face the facts. You have little credibility to lose.
Ginny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Bruno now. Iris, we're on your side. Alright then, I'll talk.
It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it. I must confess I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilded's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the Omnibus harbor secrets of which we've been hitherto unaware. So, Mr. Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statements. This is it then, everything's going to come out. Like Van Zeek said. This could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears, but as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. And my voice. The real truth of the Omnibus case.
Truth is that Brickmaker Cove was in the cabin on the Omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the flops. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard.
This is like the final boss, trying to voice these girls. Good grief, this is outrageous. What you just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago. As you say, my lord. Then there's every chance that I may have adjudicated an error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes. Without a doubt, your lordship is correct. Great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in the trial of this witness and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable.
I don't believe the whole trial was a farce.
It was all lies.
That McGilded fellow was rotten to the core, just like that pickpocket.
Don't forget that lawyer from the east together.
You're wrong, the lot of you. Mr. Naruto, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it.
Humbug.
I don't think so. Are we really expected to believe that?
He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the man off scot-free.
Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop.
Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of McGilded's pawned articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you have just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing. Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord. I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial. Of course, my lord.
Blimey, Mr. Naruhodo.
Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. was hoping not to press anything, but it looks like I have to.
Hold it!
And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats?
Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all.
Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain that you claim Mr. McGilded was the sole passenger, did you not? False testimony, Lord.
That's what he told me to say.
But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances?
I don't know. But I did hear them talking a lot.
What were they talking about?
Well, I couldn't hear too well, but if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying.
Perhaps business dealings of some kind?
Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. It started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared then. I hardly dared to breathe. And then all of a sudden, I heard a noise of someone keeling over on the floor. It was blue and loud and all.
And I believe you let out an involuntary scream.
Yeah, that's what gave me away.
Hold it!
Was the disc you saw this disc?
Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove line on the floor.
Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps?
I don't know, but McGilded picked it up pretty smartish. Then he sat the cove with the knife in his belly up on the seat.
What did he say to you at the time?
He told me not to say a word about what I seen or heard to no one. About the disc and all. I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought, if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. He started asking me a load of questions, like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a driver too.
But after a while, what happened to the carriage was noticed?
Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of a rapping noise.
Hold it!
There were 2 gentlemen occupying the seats on the roof deck, I believe.
That's right. He must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with the knife in his guts. When they screamed, the driver pulled up the horses and McGilded got me on the outside.
That guy's the true mastermind of this game. Out of sight where?
Back under the seat where I started off. Once the carriage came to a halt, the 2 coves from the roof ran off to fetch the slops.
If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene.
Yeah, only the diver didn't know I was there because I was under the seat. I heard the cabin door open and a voice from outside.
The driver, yes, he also testified in the trial, I believe. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves. Oh good, I forgot his voice, so I didn't want to voice him. What did McGilded and the driver say to each other?
I don't know what happened and stuff like that, maybe.
Hold it!
The pawn shop obviously being Winnie the Banks on Baker Street. Just a moment, counsel. Do you mean to tell me that the driver gave false testimony in the trial as well? Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was in the stand. Indeed, Lord Van Zarks.
McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up all careful-like, but handed it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking, the coat and what's in it, it's got to be worth a few bob.
Yes, Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than Mr. Windybank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember her quibbling with him over the price that afternoon at the pawnbrokery.
The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in his face. He went running off at a lick. Then the bug trotter called to me and told me to come out from the Greg's cabin.
Hold it!
Threaten you how exactly?
Told me I'd only be able to scarp her off if I did exactly what he said.
Which included giving false testimony in the court 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's it. There was one other thing he said.
Which was...
Told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it.
The ticket? Well, I'd never.
He said that if I didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay money to keep it in the log, to stop it being forfeited. It left me with some brass to pay for it.
But really, why on earth would Mr. McGilded have done such a thing? Depositing his overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police makes no sense at all. There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGilded had the driver deposit at Windybank's was something that he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs.
Anyway, after that, he let me go, so I licked it up before the coppers showed up.
Well done, Gina. It can't have been easy to tell the truth like that.
Jeannie's really put her faith in you, Reno.
Yes, and thanks to her, she'll have to face a charge of perjury once this trial is over. So I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible.
It's time to really go for it. Press her on every statement.
Suppose I should.
Oh, and one other thing.
What's that?
Take a look at those two. Isn't it strange that they've been whispering to each other the entire time?
Yes, that is strange. It looks like they're having a secret discussion about something. Not sure I'm completely comfortable with that. I wonder if there's anything I can do about it. Okay, I'm gonna press this and look over to them.
Hold it! Excuse me!
Oh, I just had to press them. Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Grayson? Inspector, Mr. Grayson.
What?
Blimey, trying to give me an heart attack? You've been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is this discussion about? Discussion? With this fella? Pull the other one, sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with a shady gent like this? And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. But they've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating. Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, Counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the Omnibus. It would appear on that night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the Omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over a price, McGilded took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. This is clearly extremely valuable in some way, although I don't understand why as yet. And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the Omnibus incident, McGilded's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited.
I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the cove died right after its trial. I knew that.
So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own.
Well, why not, eh? They were only gonna be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime.
Mr. Strahd, it would appear Mr. McGilded was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be?
I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of price. He was probably gonna sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime. My lord. The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court's inspection, sir.
Mysterious little box deposited by McGilded 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. Alright guys, I'm gonna stop here. Next time we'll figure out what's going on. So don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.